Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at co-parenting communication. But we're going to be coming at it from a really unexpected angle.
Yeah.
Hostage negotiation.
That's right. We're going to be using what we've learned from the world of high-stakes negotiations to help everyone navigate those tricky waters of co-parenting.
I know what you're thinking.
Right.
You're thinking hostage negotiation for co-parenting.
Crazy.
It sounds a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
But trust me on this one. This is about to get really interesting.
I think so.
We've got some incredible insights from Chris Voss,
Oh, yeah. Do you know Chris Voss?
a former FBI hostage
He
negotiator.
was a former FBI hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
He literally wrote the book on this stuff.
He did.
And now he's applying this expertise to all kinds of relationships,
Nice.
including the one that you have with your co-parent.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how these tactics honed in these life or death situations can be applied to something as common as co-parenting. And the core idea here is something that he calls collaborative negotiation,
I love that.
which I think is just perfect for this.
It is.
Because it's about moving away from that idea of co-parenting as a battle that has to be won.
Right.
Instead, it's thinking of it as a problem to be solved.
Yes.
So rather than two sides that are fighting each other, it's more like you and your co-parent are on the same side working together
Exactly.
to figure things out.
And that means prioritizing what is truly best for your child
Yes.
and not just trying to win every argument or get your way all the time.
Right. And that makes total sense. But, let's be real for a second.
Yeah,
Co-parenting can be really emotional.
for sure.
Like even when you're coming to the table,
Absolutely.
the best of intentions, things can get heated.
Absolutely. And that's why Chris Voss talks about the importance of negotiating without a net.
Okay, negotiating without a net.
Yeah,
That's a little scary.
it does.
What does that even mean?
So think about it this way. You know those arguments where you get so caught up?
In the emotion of the moment that you just say or do things you later regret,
Yes.
that's like being held hostage by your own feelings.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right.
Yeah.
So negotiating without a net is about recognizing and addressing your own fears and insecurities before they sabotage your conversations with your co-parent.
So like if I'm terrified of conflict, I might just cave and agree to something I'm not really comfortable with just to avoid a fight.
Exactly. But by acknowledging that fear, you can develop strategies to communicate your needs more assertively.
I love that it's not about being fearless. It's just about understanding
Right.
how your own fears might be driving your reactions.
Exactly. And that self-awareness can be incredibly empowering.
Yes.
It lets you make decisions that are truly in the best interest of your child.
Yeah.
And not just reactions that are driven by your own anxiety.
Okay, my mind is blown. This is so interesting.
It is.
I can already see how powerful this shift in thinking can be.
Yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Chris Voss has so many fascinating tactics to share.
I am so ready for this. Lay it on me.
Okay, so one of the most effective tools, and this might seem really obvious, but it's something we all struggle with,
I'm sure.
active listening.
Okay, so listening, sure, that's important. But you're not just talking about, waiting for my turn to speak, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Proactive listening is about truly hearing your co-parent going beyond just their words
Right.
and trying to understand the underlying emotions and needs that are driving their behavior.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that?
Right.
Especially when sometimes it's hard enough to just get through a conversation without things getting tense.
Well, Chris Voss recommends a technique called mirroring,
Mirroring.
which involves repeating back your co-parent's concerns in a neutral way just to demonstrate that you're really trying to understand.
So if they say something like, oh, I'm so stressed about this new schedule, I could just say back to them, you're feeling stressed about the new schedule.
Exactly. It seems simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It shows them that you're not just dismissing their feelings, you're trying to get where they're coming from.
It's almost like you're holding up a mirror to their emotions.
Yeah.
Helping them to see and acknowledge what they're feeling.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it can really help de-escalate that tension and create a more open and receptive environment for communication.
So mirroring is how we hear them.
Yes.
But how do we get to that next step of understanding?
Right.
Like, how do we get beyond just the surface level
Yeah.
of their words and really figure out what's driving their behavior?
Well, that's where calibrated questions come in.
Ooh, calibrated questions.
Yes, another technique straight from hostage negotiation.
I am loving this.
I know.
Tell me more.
Okay, so these are open-ended questions that are designed to spark thought, not just elicit a yes or no answer.
Okay.
And they're especially helpful in co-parenting because they can help you get to the heart of what your co-parent is really concerned about without making them defensive.
So instead of saying something like, why are you being so stubborn about the holidays?
Yeah.
I could ask, what are your biggest concerns about sharing the holidays?
Perfect example.
Okay.
That's exactly the kind of question that can really open up a conversation.
Right.
It encourages them to articulate their thoughts and feelings in a way that feels safe and non-judgmental.
This is so much more effective than just, throwing accusations back and forth. It's like you're inviting them to collaborate on finding a solution rather than just trying to win a fight.
Exactly. And that's what makes these techniques so powerful.
Yeah.
They can really help you transform those difficult conversations from battles into brainstorming sessions.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
This is making so much sense.
Good.
But I do have a question.
Yeah.
Isn't mirroring someone's emotions just a form of manipulation?
Great question.
Like, are we just trying to trick our co-parent
Right.
into cooperating?
That's an important question to address.
Yeah.
And the foundation of all of this is honesty and integrity. You're not trying to manipulate anyone.
Okay.
You're trying to create a space for genuine understanding.
So it's not about using these techniques to get our way.
Not at all.
No.
It's about fostering a deeper level of trust and communication,
Yeah.
which ultimately benefits everyone,
Okay.
especially your child.
Makes sense.
So think about it this way. Even in a hostage situation, the negotiator isn't trying to trick the hostage taker.
Right.
They're trying to build rapport to understand their motives and find a peaceful resolution.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So it's about using these tactics ethically,
Yes,
with integrity,
Yeah.
and always keeping the best interests of our child at the forefront.
exactly. And that honesty, that genuine desire to understand your co-parent,
Yeah.
that's what's going to build that foundation for a strong and healthy co-parenting relationship in the long run.
This is so much more than just communication advice. It's like a whole new way of looking at co-parenting.
It is.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I am so glad we're having this conversation.
Me too.
There is so much here,
There is.
and I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we've just begun to explore what Chris Voss has to teach us about applying these fascinating negotiation tactics
Yeah.
to the world of co-parenting.
Stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive,
Yes.
we're going to delve even deeper into these strategies.
Yes, we are.
And share even more practical examples and actionable advice to help you really transform your co-parenting communication.
And maybe even turn those tense negotiations into opportunities for growth and connection.
Oh no.
I know, right?
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm so excited to be continuing this conversation.
Me too. This is so fascinating.
And it is.
So we've been talking about mirroring.
Yes.
We've been talking about calibrated questions.
Right.
What other tools can we borrow
Yeah.
from hostage negotiators?
Well,
Help us improve co-parenting communication.
This one might sound counterintuitive at first, but Chris Voss talks a lot about the power of saying no.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought the whole point of negotiation was to find a way to say yes
Right.
to each other.
It's not about being disagreeable.
Okay.
It's about using no strategically as a way to protect your boundaries and advocate for your own needs.
I'm confused how does saying no actually help you negotiate?
So think about it this way. When you're constantly saying yes to everything your co-parent asks for,
Uh-huh.
even when you're not really comfortable with it,
Yeah.
what message are you sending?
I'm a pushover.
Exactly.
My needs don't really matter.
Right, and that can actually breed resentment and lead to bigger conflicts down the line.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we say no effectively without making things worse?
It's all about how you say it.
Okay.
Chris Voss suggests using phrases like, I understand what you're asking,
Nah.
but I'm going to have to say no to that.
Yeah. So you're acknowledging their request,
Yes,
but you're standing firm.
exactly. You're being clear and assertive, but also respectful.
That's helpful because I think I've been so afraid of conflict that I just end up saying yes to things that I really should be pushing back on.
And that can make the conflict worse in the long run.
Yeah. Wow. This is really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I can already see how saying no strategically can be so empowering.
It can. It's about setting those healthy boundaries and respecting yourself.
Yeah.
which is essential for any healthy relationship, especially a co-parenting relationship.
Okay, so saying no is all about protecting our boundaries.
Yes.
But what about when those boundaries get crossed?
Right.
Even when we've been clear about what we need.
That's where another powerful tool comes in, and this one is one of my favorites.
Love it.
Chris Voss calls it tactical empathy.
Okay, I've heard of empathy, but what makes it tactical?
It's not sneaky at all.
Okay.
Tactical empathy is about really trying to understand the other person's perspective,
Okay.
not just intellectually, but emotionally.
So it's more than just saying, I understand how you feel.
Yes.
It's about really putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. It's about trying to understand their motivations, their fears, their hopes. It's about seeing the world from their point of view, even if you don't agree with them.
That sounds so challenging.
It can be.
Especially when you're dealing with someone who, you don't always see eye to eye with.
It can be, but it is incredibly powerful when you're able to connect with someone on that emotional level.
Yeah.
It just builds trust and rapport.
It's like you're saying, I see you, I hear you,
Yes.
and I'm trying to understand where you're coming from.
Exactly, and that feeling of being understood can be transformative. It can disarm even the most difficult person and create a space for genuine dialogue.
So how do we practice tactical empathy
Yeah.
in our co-parenting communication? How do we actually do that?
So start by paying close attention to your co-parent's nonverbal cues.
Okay.
So their body language, tone of voice, facial expressions.
Okay.
These can all tell you so much about what they're really feeling,
Uh-huh.
even if their words are saying something else.
Got it. So they're saying they're fine,
Yes.
but, their tone is sharp and their body language is closed off.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a sign that something else might be going on.
Right. And when you notice those cues,
Uh-huh.
it's an opportunity to pause and ask a clarifying question.
Okay.
For example, you might say, I noticed you seem tense. Is there something on your mind?
That's great because it's a way to open up the conversation
Yes.
without being accusatory or judgmental.
Exactly.
It's like you're giving them permission to share what's really going on.
Exactly. And remember, tactical empathy is not about agreeing with your co-parent or giving in to their demands.
Right. It's about understanding where they're coming from so that you can find a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly. It's about using that understanding to build a bridge, to create a connection that allows for real dialogue and collaboration.
This is so powerful.
Mm.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly simple techniques can completely transform the way we approach co-parenting communication.
They can, and the best part is these are all skills that can be learned and practiced. It's
Yeah.
like learning a new language, the language of empathy, understanding, and connection.
And that language can be so powerful, especially when it comes to building a strong and healthy co-parenting relationship.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not just about the relationship between you and your co-parent.
Right.
It's about creating that stable and loving environment for your child to thrive.
Which is what it's all about, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about saying no.
Yeah.
We've talked about tactical empathy.
Great.
Of course, mirroring calibrated questions.
Yes.
What other gems does Chris Voss have for us?
Well, he talks a lot about the importance of labeling emotions.
Oh, okay.
This is such a simple but effective technique
Uh-huh.
that can instantly de-escalate tension and just build rapport.
Okay, tell me more about labeling emotions. How does that work?
It's as straightforward as it sounds. You simply acknowledge the emotion that you're sensing from your co-parent by putting a name to it.
So instead of just saying you seem upset,
Yes.
I might say you seem frustrated or you sound disappointed.
Exactly. It's about verbalizing that emotion that you're picking up on, whether it's from their words, their tone of voice, or even their body language.
Why is labeling so effective? It seems almost too simple to be true.
It might seem simple, but it's incredibly powerful because it shows that other person that you're paying attention and that you care about how they're feeling.
Right.
It validates their emotions and it creates that sense of safety and connection.
So it's like you're saying, I see you and I hear you and your feelings matter to me.
Exactly. And that feeling of being heard and understood can be incredibly disarming.
Right.
It can help lower their defenses and make them more receptive to what you have to say.
So it's not about trying to fix their feelings
Right?
or, tell them how they should be feeling.
Exactly.
It's just about acknowledging what they're experiencing.
Exactly. It's about meeting them where they are emotionally
Yeah.
and creating that space for them to feel heard and validated.
I can see how that would be so helpful, especially, in a co-parenting situation where emotions can run so high.
Absolutely. It's a game changer. And it's not just about identifying negative emotions either.
Right.
It can also be used to acknowledge positive feelings.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
So if my co-parent says, I'm really happy with how well we're working together on the kids' school projects,
Yes.
I could respond with something like, that's great to hear. It sounds like you're feeling really proud of our progress.
Perfect example. By labeling those positive emotions, you're actually reinforcing those feelings and you're strengthening that co-parenting relationship.
It's fantastic.
It is.
It's such a simple technique, but it just makes so much sense.
It does. I can't wait to try it out.
I encourage you'll be amazed at how such a small shift in your communication can create a big difference in your interactions with your co-parent.
Welcome back to our deep dive, where we've been figuring out how to use hostage negotiation tactics to improve our co-parenting communication.
Who knew, right?
It's been so fascinating.
I know, it's been so fun.
I am ready for more.
I'm ready.
What else can we learn from Chris Voss? Well, he has a lot to say about the power of persuasion.
Persuasion.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds a little dicey.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about co-parenting.
Right.
So how do we use persuasion
Yeah.
ethically and effectively in this context without it feeling pushy or disrespectful?
So it all starts with building rapport and trust.
Okay.
So before you can even think about persuading someone, you need to establish a genuine connection with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard to convince someone of anything if they don't feel like you respect them or, have their best interests at heart.
Exactly. And building that rapport starts with, you guessed it, active listening.
Yeah.
It's about showing your co-parent that you genuinely care about what they have to say and that you value their perspective.
So it's about putting aside our own agenda for a moment.
Yes.
Really trying to understand where they're coming from.
Precisely. And when you do that, it creates this foundation of trust and respect.
Yeah.
That makes it so much easier to have those productive conversations.
Right.
Even when you might disagree on certain things.
That makes total sense. So active listening is the foundation.
Yeah.
But are there any other, specific persuasion techniques that we can use?
Yeah, a powerful strategy is to frame your request in a way that aligns with your co-parent's values and priorities.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So instead of saying, I want to change the custody schedule, I could say something like, I think this new schedule would really benefit our child by giving them more stability and consistency.
That's a great example.
Okay.
By framing your request in a way that resonates with their values, you're much more likely to get buy-in.
Yeah.
It shows you're not just thinking about your own needs, you're considering what's important to them as well.
It's about finding that common ground where my needs and their needs kind of intersect.
Exactly. And remember, persuasion isn't about tricking or manipulating anyone.
Right.
It's about presenting your case in a compelling and persuasive way.
Yeah. While also respecting their intelligence and their autonomy.
It's about finding a solution that everyone can feel good about.
You got it. And that's the beauty of effective persuasion.
Yeah.
It's a win-win
Right.
for everyone involved.
Especially the kids.
Especially your child.
This is so helpful.
Yeah.
It feels a lot less intimidating than I thought.
Good.
But I have to admit, some of these co-parenting conversations, they can get pretty tense.
For sure.
Is there any way to use humor in these situations
Absolutely.
without, being disrespectful or minimizing the issue?
Humor can be a surprisingly powerful tool in co-parenting communication.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have thought to use humor in these types of conversations.
I know it seems counterintuitive.
It always feels so serious.
Right. But it can help diffuse tension.
Yeah.
It can help build rapport.
Okay.
It can just make the whole experience a little bit more enjoyable.
Okay. I'm sold. But how do we use humor effectively without being inappropriate or, making the other person feel like we're not taking things seriously?
That's a great question. Yeah. The key is to use humor that is lighthearted, self-deprecating, and appropriate for the situation.
So probably not a good idea to, make jokes at our co-parent's expense.
Right. The goal is to lighten the mood, not create more tension.
Okay.
Self-deprecating humor can be really effective.
Ah.
It shows that you're not taking yourself too seriously.
Right.
That you can laugh at your own mistakes.
Oh, I like that. So if I, accidentally mix up the kids' school events again, I could say something like, oops, looks like I'm not winning any Parent of the Year awards this week.
Perfect.
Okay.
That kind of lighthearted humor can help break that tension
Yeah.
and remind both of you that you're human and you're in this together.
It's about finding those little moments of levity, even in the midst of challenging conversations.
Exactly. And remember, humor should always be used with sensitivity and respect. It's
Yeah.
about connecting on a human level, not using humor as a weapon.
I think one of the biggest challenges in co-parenting is learning to let go
It
of the
is.
need to control everything.
Yes, letting go is essential
Yeah.
for creating a more peaceful and harmonious co-parenting relationship.
It's just so hard sometimes,
It is,
especially when you feel so deeply invested
right?
in your child's well-being.
It's hard, but it's important to remember that we can't control everything,
Oh, absolutely not.
especially not our co-parent.
So what can we do?
Focus on what you can control.
Okay,
Your own actions, your attitudes, your responses.
so instead of trying to micromanage every aspect of our co-parent parenting,
Yes.
we can focus on being the best parent we can be
Yes.
in our own time with our child.
Exactly. You can't force your co-parent to parent the way you want them to.
Yeah.
But you can control how you parent.
Right. And we can also let go of the need to be right all the time.
Yes. Co-parenting is not about winning or losing.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for your child.
Exactly.
Even if that means sometimes compromising or letting go of your own preferences.
It's about choosing our battles
Yes.
and recognizing that sometimes the best thing we can do is just let go.
Well said. And that's a powerful lesson, not just for co-parenting,
Yeah.
but for life in general.
This whole conversation has been such a revelation.
Good. I'm glad.
I never would have thought that I could learn so much about co-parenting from a hostage negotiator,
I know. It's amazing.
but it makes so much sense.
It does.
It's all about communication,
Yeah.
empathy,
Yes.
finding ways to work together even when it's tough.
I think that's a great way to sum it up.
Yeah, and I feel like I have some really good tools now to improve my co-parenting communication.
Good. I'm so glad.
So thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your insights.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, you are not alone on this journey.
That's right.
There is a whole community of co-parents out there who are facing similar challenges.
Yeah.
Reach out, connect with others, and keep learning and growing.
That is such great advice, and as always, we like to leave you with something to ponder.
We do.
If you were to apply just one of these hostage negotiation tactics to your next conversation with your co-parent, which one would it be and why?
That's a great question.
Let us know in the comments. We're
Yes.
excited to hear your thoughts.
Until next time, happy co-parenting.